Okay, so now we are going to, I'm going to introduce you to the Oracle VirtualBox network virtualization. You'll see there are different types of Oracle VirtualBox network virtualization available. We have already discussed about this NAT component with port forwarding rules. Isidora, you weren't on that class, that was the last Friday. However, you may find video tutorials online, so it would be useful for you to watch. So, for this purpose, we are going to implement two Linux Ubuntu Server virtual machines in Oracle VirtualBox environment, and we are going to configure those two virtual machines to have two network interface cards. However, for today, I think that we will have enough time only to implement one virtual machine with two cards, but tomorrow we will continue. And then we will use those two machines first to implement OnCloud. It's type of storage as a service. It belongs basically to a group of software as a service. It means that we can store our data on the cloud, so on cloud services. This software is very easy to implement, and you will see it's open source, and there are many tutorials on the web available how to step-by-step implement this software. And as I told you before, for cloud services implementation, we usually use Linux operating system because it's light. So in this case as well, we will use Linux operating system. In this case, Ubuntu Server 18.04 LTS, long-term support edition, which will be maintained, I think, till 2021. So it's pretty stable edition for nowadays. And we will configure this virtual machine with two network interface cards. Okay, so let's get started with this. So here we have a Ubuntu 18.04 image file, and we can find this file on the internet. It's free to use, of course. So let's start VirtualBox, please. I'm going to pause. So here's my VirtualBox. And I have one virtual machine implemented, but don't worry, we'll start from the scratch. So click on this new button. And now we start the wizard of creating new virtual machine, as we did on Friday. I'm going to name virtual machine. I'm going to name it OnCloud Service Ubuntu Server 18.04 LTS. When I name my virtual machines, I always want to know by looking at the name of the machine which service I am having on this machine and what is the operating system. Okay, so name the virtual machines you like.
Is what you write over there? OnCloud?
OnCloud, yes. It's the name of the service that we are going to install tomorrow, to implement tomorrow. OnCloud. Yes. Okay, good. And so as you can see, the Oracle VirtualBox for us, from this name, it concluded which operating system we're going to install. So it's always the suggestion that you choose the type of operating system you are really about to install. You know why? Because every operating system is compatible with certain hardware. In this way, if we choose the right operating system, VirtualBox will for us create appropriate virtual hardware that is, let me say, the most appropriate for this operating system that we are about to install. Okay, let's go next. I'm going to choose, I don't know how amount of RAM memory you have here, but 8. Okay, and you? 8, but we're going to need, we now get exercise 3 virtual machines. So I'm going to use 1, 5, 12, approximately 1.5 gigabyte for each virtual machine. However, Isidora, how many gigabytes do you have? 8. Okay. So it will be, it's good. So, Georgi?
Yeah, 8. 1 stick.
Okay, 1 stick of 8, good. So use 1.5 gigabits. Minimum requirements for this Ubuntu is 512 gigabits, like half a gigabyte, because it's light. However, I've tested it. It works only with 256 megabytes of memory. So it's so light, you see, but we want to be like generous. So we are using 1.5 gigabits because we have resources to spare. Now we will create a virtual drive, which is to create VDI. I'm going to next. So we choose VDI extension, this first one. We were talking about that before. And as a brief summary for Isidora, VDI is virtual disk image. It's like a virtual disk format that Oracle VirtualBox uses. However, there are some other formats like VMDK, it's VMware's format, and there is VHD, virtual hard disk. It's Microsoft's Hyper-V format because Microsoft has its own hypervisor, Hyper-V. We are also going to work with Hyper-V. It exists with our Windows 10 operating system, but first we should enable it. But in some later exercises, we are going to use Hyper-V. And to install Windows Server operating system, for example, it will be like interesting. So we'll choose dynamical disk. Okay, again, I'm not going to repeat myself. Disks can be either fixed or static or dynamic. So Isidora, take a look at this video and you'll see the difference. And now, okay, just let me check something briefly. I am going just to choose a location for my VHD. Okay, choose some kind of location. I'm going to this education. I have like this Singidunu. And then I have, okay, I'm going to chosen location. I have special partition folder for these purposes. So I would also suggest for you to do the same. So designate a folder, and in that folder you store all your VHD files, virtual disk files. However, it would be the best, it would be better if this folder is not on your system partition. If you have only one partition, then you have no choice. But if you have two partitions, please store the disk on the partition where is your data stored. Okay? I'm going to save this. And now we'll choose the virtual disk size. It should be at least around 25 gigabytes, which is like a decent. Yes?
Only 30 gigabytes left.
Okay, just click create. Okay, I'm going to check it. Just click on create.
I can create. I can't make it, but I will do this.
Yeah, okay. I'm here on 30 gigabytes. With only one partition.
Yeah. I can make it now, but I can like move some files.
Yes. So just make 25 to work,
Yeah.
but then okay, no problem. But we are going to need 3 such machines, so you will have to move some files.
I just hope I don't have like some problem with Windows because I only have 6 gigabytes left of my memory. Because I don't know how it works.
6 gigabytes of RAM memory.
Oh no, of disk storage.
Only 6 gigabytes.
Yeah, when I make this.
It will be enough because we're choosing dynamic disk. It means it like grows dynamic as we enter the new data. So if you have chosen fixed disk, then you will have a problem.
I haven't.
You have it?
I haven't.
You have it. So you will have no problem. But in the meantime, please, if you have, if it's possible, remove some files, please. Okay, so, now we have created virtual machine. Now we have to input the virtual disk drive. We go to settings, right click settings. And first, as in our previous exercise, we go to this storage set of options. And simply here we click add optical drive. And I'll click on this option, choose disk, and I have on my desktop this image file. It's like a regular DVD, instead it's virtual with all files needed for installation. And then please go here to network. Okay, I'm going to recap this just briefly. Okay, so we said that there are basically 7 network card modes here. You see here, there are 7. But also we said that we are able to implement a virtual machine with up to 4 network adapters. So it means like a full server. Yeah. However, if we are using a VirtualBox command line interface, because VirtualBox has also a console interface, we would be able to set up to 8 network cards, which we are not going to use, of course, it's too much for this practice. So for this practice, we're going to use 2 network adapters. But for now on, please leave this second adapter empty, please. And for this network adapter, we choose this option NAT, NAT, Network Address Translator. By using this option, our computer virtual machine is connected to so-called NAT box from the one side, and from the other side, this NAT box is connected to the internet. So by choosing this NAT network, we would be able to go to the internet with our virtual machine. And that's what we want. So we want that our first network adapter enables us to connect to the internet. And then you'll see, we'll set up a second network adapter, and this second network adapter will be private. It will enable communication between 2 virtual machines in isolated environment. But you'll see that we're going to use for Git and for other, but for now, just do it like this, okay? For now, okay, let's set some port forwarding rules. Isidora, please, okay, watch tutorial and you'll see what is port forwarding. So, just briefly, by using the port forwarding rule, we would be able to connect from our host operating system, which is Windows, to our guest machine, which will be Linux on our virtual machine, by using SSH, Secure Shell Protocol, that uses the port 22. Also, please recall one more thing. We said that when we set up an NAT network mode, so basically every virtual machine will get a local IP address, of course, on this network adapter that is connected with the NAT, Network Address Translation Box. And in all cases, the IP address will be, oh, I cannot type. I can type here, 10.0.2.15/24. In all cases, this is by default in VirtualBox. However, we could tweak this, but we're not going to tweak this because there is no need for us to tweak this. So our network adapter, we have this private IP address, and at the second site of this NAT will go to the internet with the public IP address of this Singidunu University access point. Okay, it's like in your home environment. You have a wireless router. In this router, you can connect multiple devices. So all of these devices has a private IP address. You know what are the ranges of private IP addresses from the computer networks course. And all addresses that start with 10 belong to the so-called A-class private IP address ranges. Okay, I'm going to also make a quick summary of these ranges later on. Okay. So when we configure this, let's do port forwarding. So again, I've chosen this network option. I click on adapter 1. I chose port forwarding. I just click here on add button, and I'll name this rule SSH rule, because by using this rule, I'm going to connect from the host operating system, which is in this case Windows to our guest machine, and host port. Now I choose some kind of random port. I'll choose, for example, the port 1313. It's like easy to remember port. Oh, sorry. First option is host IP. Host IP will be the IP of NetBox. It's a local loopback address, 127.0.0.1, or any other address that starts with 127. It's all local loopback address. So it's basically the address of what? The address of the local network card interface. You know this from computer networks. And then we'll choose a host port. Okay, now it will be 1313. And now we have to define the guest IP address. And the guest IP address will be this A class private A IP address 10.2.0.2.15. And the guest port will be default port used by SSH, Secure Shell Protocol, and this is the port 22. Okay, we know all this stuff. And please click on this OK button. Okay, and then OK. And finally, we can start our virtual machine. Later on, we'll need the same virtual machine, the same configuration. We're not going to install it from the scratch. We're going to perform a cloning process because VirtualBox enables us to clone one virtual machine to another. Okay, so choose English. And I'm going to choose this option to install Ubuntu. Of course, almost all Linux editions come with an option to live boot without installation, but we're going to install this. Okay, I'm going to choose the English language. Okay, now we're going to choose the location, geographical location. I'm going to go to other, and I'm going to choose Europe, and I'm going to choose Serbia. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to choose default keyboard layout, English United States. I'm going to leave it as it is and I'm going to choose option no, because we do not want the Linux to automatically detect our keyboard layout. Now we choose English US, keyboard layout English US, because it's standard United States keyboard. I'm using this keyboard. So if you're using some other keyboard, you may choose. So when I was a kid, I got used on this keyboard and that's it. But most people use this keyboard because it's like a standard keyboard. And now the installation process is loading. So now at this point you see that it states loading additional components. It means that all files necessary for operating system to be installed are being loaded into the random access memory in the form of so-called memory image. In the case of Linux, it's so-called a mini kernel, like a mini operating system. And by using this mini operating system from the random access memory, we will be able to install a full-fledged operating system on our disk. Okay, so we'll have a break in 4 minutes, and during the break the system will be installed. Okay, now let's choose the host name. Since we are going to install the own cloud, I'm going to choose own cloud. And I'm simply going to click on this continue button. So the host name is the name of our Linux operating system. It's on cloud. I'm going to click continue. Okay, now we should create a new user. So in Ubuntu distribution that is based on Debian distributions, we do not have root user by default that is enabled. We can enable it later on. So I'm going to create a local user with administrator privileges. And also, like in the case of CentOS, if we want to execute commands within the administrator privileges, we will have to type the sudo command, super user do command. But you know that. I'm going to create user like, okay, not never sure, on cloud user, but remember this username, on cloud user. Continue. And the username will be again on cloud because it's some kind of service user, because it's user that uses the on cloud service. Continue. And please choose password and remember this password. I've chosen the password. Continue. It asks us whether this time zone is correct. Yes, it's Europe and Belgrade. It is correct. GMT +1. Okay, now it's some kind of wizard that takes us on partitioning the disk. We're going to use this option. Guided use entire disk. Without this LVM, it's logical volume manager, you are going simply to use this option. Guided use entire disk. So the Linux will create partitions for us automatically, because in this course we're not going deep into the Linux administration, so we're not going to create partitions on our own. And finally, choose the disk. We have only one disk with, in my case, 27.5 gigabytes. I'm going to choose OK. And now it asks us whether we want to write changes to the disk and to install the operating system. So it warns us that everything on that disk will be erased. In our case, there is nothing on this disk, so we are completely safe. I just click OK. And now the installation process should start. Okay, I'm going to pause this video. We are going to take a break and then... Okay, so now we have to set up the address of the proxy server if it exists. You know what is a proxy server?
Pardon?
Proxy server.
Proxy?
Proxy, yeah.
Is it like, for example, you're here, but you're setting up like a proxy, like you're somewhere else, like scattered all around the world?
No, it's more like, you know, later in previous, like 10 or so years ago, internet connections were so slow.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, each local internet service provider has a proxy server. It means that content that is being accessed by the users so frequently was cached on that server.
Okay.
So the next time the user requests the same content, it will not have to go all over the internet to fetch it. Instead, it goes to the proxy server, which is just 1 or 2 hops from the user. It means the packets pass only 1 or 2 routers from the user's location. In this way, the process gets much faster.
Okay. Yes.
However, in our days, when we have a broadband internet access, cloud computing, and so other fancy stuff, there is no need for the proxy server. However, every operating system and every browser we can choose whether to use or not to use the proxy server. However, in this case, we'll just click continue. We are not going to use the proxy server. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So while this installation is going, we are going to discuss just briefly about this Oracle VirtualBox network virtualization types. So first thing is that when we go to, okay, I'm going to show you. When we go to settings, okay, and then to this network tab, advanced, here we could choose different types of network adapters. Okay, now the options are grayed out because the virtual machine is running. However, I have this second machine that is not currently running. So go here, advanced. Okay, I cannot because, okay, the one is running, so it doesn't matter. So from this drop-down menu, we can choose different network adapters. So these are, of course, virtual network adapters. However, we said that virtualization is abstraction of computer resources. So it means that by using the software, we are emulating hardware. And in this way, by using the software, so by using virtualization technology, we are basically emulating a real hardware components, like a real network card and everything. So it is very good. Okay, so we can choose software emulations of real physical network interface cards. So it's really awesome. It's really good to have a feature like that. However, in most cases, we are really using this Intel Pro 1000 default adapter because we are, not transferring so many IP packets, and we don't use this. However, in real-world cloud environments, especially with some other Type 1 hypervisors like ESXi, it is very important to choose appropriate network interface type that will emulate 100% of physical network interface card, because in this way we will have a high-speed network card that will suit all cloud service needs. However, for these services and for home, for the purpose of home, for using a virtualization in home-based environment like this environment, we don't have to choose other network card. Okay? Okay, so it is running. Okay, now it asks us whether we want to perform automatic updates or not. I'm going to choose this option, no automatic updates, because we're going to do it manually from the Linux terminal. And now at this step, it asks us whether we want to install some other services like DNS, like LAMP, like mail server, and so on. We're not going to use this. For this final project, you may choose to install different types of cloud services, and I told you that these basic infrastructure services like DHCP, DNS, mail server also belong to the group of cloud infrastructure services. So if you like, you may choose to implement DNS and DHCP server, or to implement like a print server or file sharing server, or even a mail server. Okay? So when you see instructions, it will become all clear. But for now on, I'm not going to use any of these services. Later on, we are going to install manually from the scratch OpenSSH server. So just this OpenSSH server, but for now, we're not going to use it. So just click continue.
How do you click on that continue?
Just tap, yes.
Right.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Okay, so installation will take like a few more minutes. In the meantime, let's just briefly talk about this network, Oracle VirtualBox virtualization of the network. So as we virtualize the whole infrastructure, we can also virtualize only the network. So these are all the types of virtual network adapters that are supported by the Oracle VirtualBox. And in our implementation, we're using this desktop network adapter because we are not going to use a lot of packages going back and forth and so on. However, for each network adapter, we can configure different so-called network virtual network modes or types. So first type, natural type, is the not attached. What does it mean? It simply means that we did not plug our network card, we did not plug the cable into our network adapter. It means like we're using a standard computer, like if you're using a laptop computer, when we do not connect to the Wi-Fi network, it's the same as not attached. Or if we are using a network internet card with the Ethernet cable, it means like we did not plug this cable into our network interface card. So that's the first mode, which is obvious. The second mode is NAT, Network Address Translation. And I'm going to show you this figure. Please look at this figure. What is a network address translation? NAT is a very important component in the modern computer networks. By using so-called NAT blocks, we are able to connect multiple computers from the isolated private network environment to the internet. And all these computers use the same public IP address. So, imagine a situation if we have like 100 computers. If we want, in the previous times, if we wanted to connect all these computers to the internet, we would have to have 100 broadband or wide area network internet connections, like 100 routers. However, by using NAT box, we can connect as many as we want computers to the internet by using the same public IP address. It means that, you see, this is like this NAT box. So on one side of NAT box, you see, on one side of NAT box, we have a different virtual machines. It's called guest platforms or guest computers in this case. So all these virtual machines have its own private IP address. You see, 10.0.2.15 and so on. That's by default in Oracle VirtualBox. However, when all these machines want to go to the internet, first they go to NAT, Network Address Translation component, and that component translates these private IP addresses to the public address. You see, this is example of the public address. So, whenever each of these computers want to go to the internet, their public address is being transformed to this public address, and they go to the internet. You know, only public addresses are routable on the internet. So that's like the basic network theory, and I'm not going to go deep into this because you have other course related to computer networks. And there is something interesting on this figure. You know what? Do you see that each of these machines are in its isolated environment?
Yeah.
Like in its all isolated network, and they all connect to the internet from that network. What does it mean? It means that all these virtual machines have the same private IP address. Let me ask you something. On the local area network, is it possible to have two machines with the same private IP address? No, it is not possible, because if we have this kind of situation, there will be a lot of packet collisions on the network, and these networks will become unstable, and finally it will become like of not practical usage. We could not use this network. We will have so-called IP address conflicts all the time. However, you see here that all machines have the same private IP address. It means that all machines, as you can see from this figure, are in its own isolated environment, like in their own private local area networks. Okay? What does it further mean? Further, it means that these machines cannot communicate with each other. For example, if we install two machines in VirtualBox, in Oracle VirtualBox, by using this NAT virtual network configuration mode, those two virtual machines will not be able to communicate. because they're in its isolated network environments, and those environments are not connected with each other. Do we understand that?
Yeah.
So, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that if we use this network address translation, network virtualization mode in VirtualBox, virtual machines will be able to connect to the internet. However, those virtual machines will not be able to communicate with each other. That's it. So NAT we use if we want one machine to be connected to the internet. That's the point of the story. You see with some other hypervisors like VMware or Microsoft's Hyper-V and VMware ESXi, we will see that all these vendors use the similar terminology for NAT. For example, according to one terminology, this network is called Internet Network because machines can connect to the internet. But despite of terminology used in vocabulary of different hypervisor vendors like VMware, Microsoft, Oracle, and so on, the principle is the same. They use the NAT component. That's it. Okay?
Okay.
So what if we want that our virtual machines are able to use the internet resources, and if we want that those virtual machines will be able to communicate with each other? So, for example, what if we want to implement two virtual machines where each of these virtual machines will be able to go to the internet, and also we want that two virtual machines will be able to establish a communication? We would have to set up at least two network adapters. One network adapter will have automatic IP address, which is 10.0.2.15 by Oracle VirtualBox default configuration, and the second IP address will be only for communication. The second network interface card purpose will be for communication between different virtual machines. So in that case, we will have to set up two network interface cards. However, this second network interface card will not obtain automatic IP address, like in this case. In this case, we are using DHCP and so on, but if we have the configuration like private network, you'll see we will have to set up the IP address manually by using, in the case of Linux configuration files. Okay, so now we come to this second type of network. I skipped bridge network. We are going to discuss about that tomorrow. So there is internal network adapter. So what happens if we use internal network adapter? First, we set so-called private network. Private network, it's like a private local area network that is not connected to the internet. And we name that network. We give a name. So in this figure, in this example, this network is named INT network. It's by default in Oracle VirtualBox. So INT network, okay? And for example, if we implement 3 virtual machines on this same private network, these machines will be able to communicate with each other. But as you can see, this network, in this example, INTnet, is not connected to the host machine. It means that it cannot go to the internet. So, for the Git exercise, as you will see, we would like to implement 3 machines. One will be Git server, and 2 machines will have the role of Git clients. Okay. And we want all 3 machines to be able to communicate with each other. And we will also have a requirement that all of these 3 machines can go to the internet to fetch the software. for example, from the public Git repository, as you will see. So in this case, all these three machines will have two network adapters. One will be NAT mode, and on the second adapter we will configure internal adapter, and we will create a private network, and all three machines, more precisely, second adapters of all three machines will be connected to this private network, and in this way we will fulfill all two requirements. So first, machine should be able to go to the internet and fetch data, and the second machine should be able to communicate with each other. So that's like the basic setup of this. I hope you understood everything. So I clearly explained. Okay, okay. So let's see what is with this. Now they ask us, the installation process asks us whether we want to implement a master boot record loader, bootloader. We say yes. It's a special software that is used to boot our operating system. Again, I'm not going to talk about this. This is completely different topic, but you should understand this. And you heard that in operating systems. What is a bootloader? I see. Yes. Okay. So, bootloader is a very important component. This component enables us to boot the operating system. And in Linux, we use the GRUB bootloader. It stands for the Grand Unified Bootloader. In like earlier times, there were some other bootloaders, but now the GRUB is the most used as sophisticated bootloader. And now first, let's wait till this installation finishes. And now it warns us that we should, it's like in a real computer, because the computer boots from the DVD. Now we have to eject our virtual disk drive. Okay, we go to devices, optical disk drive, and we should choose this remove option, but it's gray out, it means it's already removed. Okay, please make sure that is removed, and let's click on continue. And now the system will restart, and we will be able to log into our Linux machine. And tomorrow we'll continue from this point, okay? Okay, but one more thing I want to show you. So I'm going to wait. So a good thing about VirtualBox is that it enables us to create a snapshot of system. What does it mean? It means the following. It is a good practice when we perform a clear installation of a system. It is a good practice for us to create a snapshot. It's like image of the system. And later, when we install all bunch of different softwares, we can revert, we can restore the system from this image, snapshot. So more precisely, we can restore the system to the previous state. And it is very useful. We are going to do this. So first, let me just log into our system with my own cloud user. That was the username, I suppose, and the password. Oh no, what is the password?
I forgot the username. Nice. Come on.
On cloud user, that's what we...
Yes.
Yes, I can Okay, good. Okay, good. And I'm going to type in config command to see my IP address. You can see that we have one network adapter. So Linux gives, let me say, ridiculous names for these adapters. It's ENP0S3. It's the name of adapter. It's Linux name, and we see here that we have IP address of 10.0.2.15, and network mask is of 24 bits of size, and we have a broadcast address and everything. I hope that you know all these TCP/IP addressing components. What is a subnet mask? What is a IP address? What is the gateway? What is the broadcast address and everything? I hope that you know that. Yes?
We've heard about it. I just need to refresh my mind about it.
Okay. Okay, maybe if we have time, I'm going to give you a brief lecture about that. Okay. Now let's see if this machine can go to the internet. Just try to ping the Google, for example. And we have our packets back. So we have echoes. Now we can just type Control-C to perform a terminate system call to stop this command. Okay, so that's for today regarding this installation. We set up environment for tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll start with implementation configuration of OnCloud. It will take like 2 or 3 classes for that. So it will be practical, but for now, let's just turn off this machine. I'll type sudo because we're not a root user. Init 0. It's the signal for the shutdown. Control-C, please. It's a so-called terminate Linux signal, and by using this terminate signal, we can stop any command we are executing.
Temporary failure in name resolution.
In your case, that's because of your Wi-Fi connection. But we'll troubleshoot this tomorrow, okay? Okay, I turned off my machine. Okay, so you see here at the right side, here do you have this snapshots dialog box? Snapshots. Do you have this? Okay, okay. You have machine tools icon, yeah?
Tools. We have snapshots.
Okay, please. Okay, I'll click here and go to snapshots. So this is a pane with snapshots of our machine. So I told you, it's good practice when we install, like make a fresh installation of a new system. It is a good practice to create a snapshot of this. So in the later point of time, we can revert to the state of the newly fresh installed system, which is very good.
Okay. So
just click here, take. I'm going to name this snapshot. It's like a fresh OS installation. Yeah. It's like a new installation, and I just click OK. So that's the snapshot. Okay, so at later point of time when we want to revert back, we can just restore to this. Right click and click restore to this snapshot. Okay, good. Tomorrow we're also going to clone this machine to prepare for the Git, but for now on, let's just finish for today. So tomorrow we'll start with implementation and configuration of OnCloud server. So we're going to use 3 classes for that, and I'm going to introduce you a little bit of more theory. Okay? I'm going to stop recording.